The others followed suit, taking Creed with them. They rode about a mile across the prairie until they came to a creek bottom that had several large oaks and cottonwoods growing in it, any one of which had a strong limb suitable for hanging a man. Jesse held up his right hand as a signal for them to halt. Before anybody could do or say anything, Kindred came racing up out of the darkness, shouting, "Hold up there!" Kindred must have thought that Jesse and the others were obeying him, because suddenly he acted like a wild man, charging Jesse and causing a collision between their horses. Both riders were thrown clear, but the animals went down in a din of wild, frightened whinnies and in a heap of legs thrashing crazily as they tried to right themselves. "Crazy bastard!" screamed Jesse as he regained his feet. He saw Kindred struggling to get up on his hands and knees, ran over to him, and kicked him solidly in the ribs with the sharp toe of his boot. "Little bastard," he swore again. "I ought to kill you for that." Frank jumped down from his horse and stopped Jesse from kicking Kindred again. "Let him be," he said. "We got other business here." "Just let me kick him once more," said Jesse. "No, let him be," said Frank. He pulled his brother away from the writhing, gasping marshal. Creed figured Kindred must have been hurt badly by the way he rolled around on the ground holding his sides. In a way, he almost felt sorry for Kindred. Almost. "All right," said Jesse. "Let's get him strung up." Frank took Nimbus by the reins and led Creed to a good-sized tree. The three men who had been in the hotel room joined them. Jesse and the others remained aloof, several feet away. "Get him down," said Frank. The trio helped Creed to the ground. Just then, one of them shouted, "Son of a bitch!" and knocked Creed to the ground. All three of them piled onto him, and although they cursed him and acted like they were hitting him, none landed a blow. One even said softly, "Stay down, Slate, and pretend you're hurt." Creed recognized Jim White's voice and did as he was told. The three men stood up abruptly and looked down at Creed, trying to appear menacing through their masks. Creed figured that besides White, he was looking at the Shepherd brothers. "Get a noose on him," ordered Frank. "Let's get this hanging over with." White and the Shepherds fell on Creed again, this time with a rope. When they finished, Creed fell one loop around his neck, and another under his coat and around his chest. He couldn't be certain, but he thought that they were the same rope, or that they were tied together at least. "Get him on his horse again," said Frank. As White and the Shepherds put Creed atop Nimbus, Frank threw the other end of the rope over a limb of a cottonwood that they were under. He grabbed the line again and tied it to a smaller tree. He remounted his own horse and moved in close to Creed so he could adjust the noose. As he did, he whispered, "Better pretend you're hanging for real, Slate, or Jesse or Arch will put a ball in your brain for sure." Jesse walked up to them and said, "What's taking so long?" "All set," said Frank. He moved his horse away from Creed. "Goodbye, Slate Creed," said Jesse, his tone mocking and hateful. Without another word, he slapped Nimbus on the rump, startling the Appaloosa into bolting from under his master. Creed dropped a foot or so, and was brought up short by a jolt on his armpits. At the same time, the noose tightened around his throat, gagging him, but nothing more. Suspended above the ground, he remembered what Frank had said about pretending to be hung for real, so he began kicking the air violently, twisting and swinging back and forth as though he were choking. He kept this up for a good minute or more, then fell limp, feigning death. As soon as Creed ceased moving, Jesse pulled his six-gun and started to take aim at the Texan's drooping head, but before he could squeeze the trigger, Frank jumped down from his horse and stopped him by grabbing his wrist and lifting it skyward. "No, Jesse," said Frank in a low growl that only his brother could hear. Jesse wrenched his hand free and said, "I was just going to make sure he was dead." "No, Jesse," snarled Frank as he grabbed Jesse's wrist again. "He died like a man. He doesn't need to be shot like a dog." After a moment to think about it, Jesse said, "All right, Frank. I'll grant him that much. That marshal deserves to be dead, too." "No, Jesse," said Frank. "We made a bargain. If you don't stick to it, I'll never ride with you again." Jesse thought about that, too, then said, "All right, Frank. I won't kill him. Let's go." "No," said Frank. "We're going to bury our friend first." "Well, I'm not sticking around for the funeral," said Jesse. "Then why don't you take the marshal back to town?" suggested Frank. "I think you hurt him so bad that he can't ride without help."